Thank you, Benam and Luna. We were at the last meetup this year and had a great time. But I'd like to invite our next speaker, the lovely Lillian. She's just moved here from the US 2 years ago and she's finally doing something she really enjoys. Please welcome Lillian.
I'm hoping it's a little easier to begin a speech after a couple beers, but one to infinity, one idea, infinite possibility. It's an idea that basically, it began with a design process that you have one idea and all these many possibilities, infinite possibilities in front of you. And somehow you were able to narrow it down with brainstorming, research, and idea exchange into one solution that hopefully you and the client are happy for. But what it really represents to me, and it might be naive, but this idea that there are no limits to what we can achieve in life as an individual or a society, and that there are many different directions we have in front of us, and even if one doesn't work out, there usually is another right there, and usually if we keep going, then it turns out to be better. There are boundaries, but these boundaries are meant to be broken, and I'm sure all of us that have failures, but in the end, these failures help us make the person we become today. So in the end, if we keep pushing, we end out to achieve what we set out to do in the beginning. Who am I? I am kind of a mutt, which is a mixed breed of dog for the American sarcasm. I was born in Norway, and at the age of 3, my parents decided to pack up our things and move to the US, and that's where I spent the next 20 years. And I was maybe a bit shy growing up, but for our family, it wasn't normal if we weren't on a flight hopping from the US back to Norway every summer. So this is kind of what we did growing up. And the thing is, the best childhood memories that I have are those spent in Norway, amazingly enough. Just there has to be something about being a kid and having nature or the fjords in front of you, or being able to spend the whole day in the mountains and taking a matpakke and just being there in nature. And it was something to bring me back 20 years later. As a designer, one of the things I like to focus on, whether I'm doing a web design project or a print or ad campaign, is branding and identity. And I think that it's something that we sometimes take for granted. Sometimes the identities can be great, sometimes they're not. Sometimes you have a logo that's pretty mediocre. And I try to ask myself, or ask the client, can this be better? And even if it was just a web design project, I found the results to be quite positive. That the client, maybe, I'm not quite satisfied with this. Can you do a little identity job? And all of a sudden, a web design becomes an identity and a whole branding case. And in the end, it's so rewarding because your client is that much happier. If I'm not working on client or branding or corporate things or other types of jobs, I really like to take the time to experiment with color, with layout, with pictures, with photography, and incorporating color. I think that color is one of the strongest elements of design that really takes out emotion and feeling from the viewer. And at the same time, especially since I've gone from being a print designer to a web designer, I'm learning every day new technologies and things that can make a design even more impactful by coding and all the software that is available to us. And then again, there's infinite knowledge that's out there. But I think one of the most rewarding things as a designer is when you do something that is beyond a company, beyond yourself, and it's for a greater cause in this world. There's so many things that need good design. And I think it's great that Architects for Humanity is here tonight, and I think we should all keep drinking and support the cause. But in a couple slides, there's a project that I did that you'll see it. It's rose petals that form a double helix structure of DNA. And basically, 20 seconds, it's after this one. This one also is a title of garden. It's an illustration from him. It just came out with the CD, so check it out. It's really great. But back to the rose petals. Basically, all the rose petals represent every ethnicity, every race, every skin, everything that that we are as human beings. Here it is. And in the center, the thorns represent what has divided us: nationalism, religion, any type of thing that divides humankind for some odd reason, yet together we can still come as one and be one species and one identity. And for the last, and here again I like to focus on detail, but what I want to move on to, what I want to talk about for the remaining 2 minutes I have, is something that pertains to all of us in this room, to every one of us tonight, or most of us. It is the city we live in, and that is Oslo. And ever since I moved here 2 years ago, I found it completely amazing. And I don't know if it's because of all the parks that make Oslo. I mean, it's just covered with greenery and nature, and I think it's amazing. Or maybe it has to do with Janteloven and the Norwegian tradition that brings Norwegians a bit more humble. But I found, and what I've observed for the last few years I've been here, is that Norwegians are amazingly genuine and down to earth. No matter who you talk to, no matter if you're talking to one of the biggest musicians in Norway or one of the biggest stars, they're still pretty down to earth, and you don't get that in Chicago or Paris or any of the bigger cities. And I think this is a city that's very intimate, and that we can have nights like this, like Pecha Kucha, that we are kind of, there's so much amazing talent in this room right now. And just to know that you're kind of in awe half the time. So, yeah. I hope we take the time to realize that and to celebrate that and to celebrate Norway also. And there's a lot of innovation that happens here. And a lot of things, especially in the last week, all this beautiful weather we've been having. So,